Hi there, I'm meteorologist Robert Spetta.
And I'm meteorologist Lee Southwick. Welcome to Talkin Tropics.
Oh, Lee, we got a lot to talk about today. Today, a general kind of recap of the 2024 season. It's been a busy one.
It's been an extremely active one. We're going to talk about the numbers, just kind of recap the season so far. We also are talking about not just hurricanes out there in the Atlantic, but meteorologist Robert Spetta has put together a graphic about all over the world, all over the globe. There's a lot of things to talk about. We're also going to talk about La Niña. So let's dive in, Robert.
And if you're watching this, of course, make sure you check out First Coast News Plus on our streaming platform. We really appreciate if you watch there. If you're watching anywhere else and you want to ask us some questions or on our personal social media, send us messages. Maybe not at this time, but in the future, just give us some questions that you want answered. That's what we're here for. These updates are supposed to be interactive here with you. And first off, Lee, it is November 20th here when we're shooting this, and we have no storm systems out there right now.
Woo! How about a round of applause for that?
But today is a kind of special day, not special day.
It's an anniversary.
It's an anniversary, yes, of the 1985 Hurricane Kate, the latest landfalling hurricane on record in the United States. This thing came out short just around Tallahassee here, Lee, and actually it was a Cat 2 at landfall. And you know what's interesting, Lee, is the fact that prior to this, it feels like every other year we get storms out here. We got multiple in the Big Bend area this year. But prior to this, it was about 3 decades before the Panhandle actually got hit by a tropical system, or at least a hurricane. I think that goes to note, that Jacksonville just hasn't gotten very many storms recently, but our time very well could come, right? So yeah, that's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't.
Right.
But, don't ever let your guard down. That's
absolutely. I mean, the fact that here, Robert, you and I got a lot of questions with Sarah this past November. It's November. Why hasn't Mother Nature realized this? Well, here we go. I mean, as late as this day, back in 1985, we had landfalling hurricanes. And actually, just looking back, it's not as common, but we have had major hurricanes in the month of November. So you can see here, these are all of the hurricanes. There's 6 of them. So it is rare, but yet still we do have these landfalling hurricanes. We had just recently Rafael. That was a Cat 3 that made landfall in Cuba. And then we have also had, out of these 6, 3 of these hurricanes have made landfall in the past 4 years. We had Iota as a Cat 4 and Eta as a Cat 4, both in 2020. So it's not common to see major hurricanes in November. Usually the waters are cooler. We have more cold fronts, and we just don't have the right ingredients usually to create major hurricanes, but we are seeing a change here. And so once again this year we had a major hurricane in the month of November, and then it was followed up by another tropical storm that created a lot of flooding issues for Central America and Mexico with Sarah.
Yeah, Sarah, despite the fact Sarah of course, didn't impact the United States directly. You're right. Honduras and Belize saw extremely heavy rainfall from that storm system. And definitely, it just shows, sometimes, a lot of the times, the Cat 4s and 5s get the big hype. They get a lot of the attention. But these relatively smaller storms can cause some very serious damage. Now, during the middle of the season, it was kind of an odd season here, Lee, in the sense that we started off going strong with what Barrow broke so many records. Let me correct me if I'm wrong. It was the first Cat 5 the earliest Cat 5 in June. One of the strongest hurricanes east of the Windward Islands in June. The ACE, the accumulated cyclone energy from that storm, was off the charts. So we started off the season strong. We had kind of a lull in July, and then we came in swinging near the end here. And here's a look at some of the numbers.
So just off the top, 18 named storms compared to the 14, which is the average. So a very active season, but I think it really shows it here with the hurricanes. The fact that we've had 11 hurricanes and 5 major hurricanes this season. So much more frequent. These not only just systems, not only tropical depressions, not only named storms or tropical storms, but the hurricanes too. So these powerful storms, unfortunately started early, and then, as we said, we got that little bit of a lull, and then it just took off. People don't even remember Debbie that well, which impacted us here,
right?
But it's hard to remember after Helene and then Milton, so it's just been a very active season.
Oh, yeah, actually, I forgot about Debbie. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, because Helene was a crazy storm, and then Milton, they all had their variety of impacts here. And then there was also other storms earlier this year which impacted Louisiana over towards Texas.
Do we have the list? There we go. You got it. You read my mind.
There we go. Yeah. So we had Alberto to start off the year. We had Beryl, a Cat 5. Chris, I don't remember Chris too much. Tropical storm.
It was Mexico.
Excuse me, sorry. And Debbie, which you mentioned at Cat 1. Ernesto, correct? Where was Ernesto? Was that the Louisiana one?
Trivia. I think that was Francine. Trivia time. Okay, you know what? I got a handy-dandy device right here.
Yeah, those Google things.
Welcome to Live with we're live. So
just trying to. I think you're right, Francine. It was the one in Louisiana. Then of course Gordon. Then Helene, which impacted Florida. And Georgia, which they had power, no school for a month after that storm. Isaac, I don't remember Isaac. Is the Joyce, Kirk, which a Cat 4. Did you find out about Francine?
So Francine, Louisiana. Ernesto, Puerto Rico.
So, all right. See, all these storms, like there was so many strong ones. Milton, another Cat 5, and the fact that we had 2 Cat 5s. I mean, I remember when I was younger. Let's be honest here. When I was younger, having a Cat 5, one Cat 5 was unusual. It was a weird year if you had a Cat 5. Now we had 2 in 1 year and multiple Cat 4s as well.
Yeah.
Just shows, seasons are getting stronger. And we're going to touch a little bit more on this in just a second.
But just to mention the 2 Cat 5s that you mentioned, both of them were historic in their own way. So obviously Beryl, the earliest Cat 5 we've ever had on record. And then Milton, one of the fastest strengthening hurricanes we've ever had on record too. So both of them breaking their own records, or at least ending up in the record books somewhere. I believe Milton was number 3, but still just monster storms.
And then it goes back to the sea surface temperatures. I know, especially people that don't believe there is a changing climate, regardless if you believe it's man-made or not. You can't deny the fact that sea surface temperatures are crazy warm. They are well above their average. They're record-breaking since our records began. And the end result is something that we've been talking about for some time, years. Meteorologists for years now have been mentioning that would be more fuel and energy for these storm systems. Right. And Milton, and it's not just the stronger storms, and it's not really more storms, but like you just said there, Lee, Milton went from a tropical storm to a major hurricane in what I think it was like 12 hours.
Yeah, something like that. Something crazy.
It was between 12 and 24, but the reality was we blinked and that thing was just it was a monster.
Right.
It's interesting.
And you say too with the warm waters. So if we think back to our waters and whether and how that's fuel for hurricanes, right? And so we also have other things that help inhibit hurricanes, or for instance, La Niña and El Nino. So we already had one reference point, was it last year, where we had El Nino and extremely warm waters, the warmest they've ever been. So El Nino is supposed to calm down the hurricane season some. We usually have more wind shear, which will rip apart the hurricanes. So we said, all right, we have 2 factors, one that's supposed to help hurricanes and one that's supposed to inhibit them. Let's see who wins. Of course, it was just 1 year. We need a lot more data. We need a lot more science and studying on this. But it ended up the warm waters won. We had an active season. This year, we've had a very active season. People have talked about La Niña. We actually didn't get to La Niña conditions during the hurricane season. So this was completely on its own with those warm waters, this very active season.
Yeah, still a La Niña watch, which we're going to get to in just a second. But I do want to talk about this, Lee. The global tropics since late September.
Yes.
All right. You might have just a little sneak peek on this. Check this out. somewhere on Earth, we had an active storm since the 24th of September. Now through mid-November, we still have an active storm out there. 17 named storms overall. Multiple Cat 5s and multiple super typhoons, which is about a 4 or a 5. I want to talk about this globally, and we got some storms here locally that we know about. Cimarron, that was back in September 24th to the 27th. This is kind of where this started. Relatively weaker storm. Then we had Jebi and Kraton. Those impacting around the Philippine area within a relatively short period of time. Then, of course, Lee, Milton. I mean, you were here covering Milton. What was kind of the I guess the impacts here on the first coast, or at least across Florida with this one, which was a Cat 5.
It was a Cat 5 out in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yes, it was a Cat 5 in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yes,
I do want to note that.
And that was, again, such a rapidly strengthening hurricane where we went to bed one night expecting it to wake up and maybe have a Cat 3 on our hands, and we had a Cat 5. It was just... So it was one for the record books, really. And then it made landfall on the west coast of Florida. And although you can see the track there, south of our viewing area here, the first coast of Florida, we still felt impacts, especially where, Robert, you were down in Palm Coast, and so Flagler County, and then we also had evacuations for the St. Augustine area, St. Johns County, even up in Nassau County, there were discussions of evacuations just because of the rising waters for some of those neighborhoods too. So although we didn't get that direct landfall, we were impacted here. Also, so many people can think back to Helene as well, which just wiped out power for so many people, and that also wasn't a direct landfall.
And that was just from the 5th to the 10th of October. I'm going to keep going here because we still have active storm systems somewhere out there, because right after Milton, we had Nadine the 19th to the 20th and Oscar, which was the 19th to the 22nd. So at the same time, you had two active storm systems there. And you might be thinking, okay, what about the 10th to the 19th? Gotcha. We had multiple unnamed tropical depressions in the Western Pacific. And then after that, of course, we had Trami, which developed, and this was a big, devastating flood maker for the Philippines. That was the 19th to the 29th of October. Meanwhile, another Cat 5, Christy. We don't even talk about Christy. This was a fish storm. Lee, can you explain to everybody what a fish storm is?
So there's fish in the sea.
Yes.
So a fish storm is pretty much just a storm that does not impact the land directly. You can see it developed over water, it died over water, it never crossed over any sort of land, left to the fishes. So, of course, we do know that it impacts shipping routes, sailors, all of that. But generally, when you hear a meteorologist say fish storm, it means it stayed over water.
I mean, this storm, when it was a Cat 5, it wasn't really any shipping lanes. So if you were out there, you wanted to be in this storm. You were going out of your way to be inside of it. But it just, another big old storm system. Then we had Kung Ray, which impacted Taiwan. I mean, it was several feet of rainfall. This one hit into the mountains there. And then we had Patty,
Other side of the world.
Sorry?
Other side of the world.
Other side of the world. Patty, the 2nd to the 4th of November. This one was unusual because this was off the coast of Europe, and it did kind of taper off, but it brought some big old waves out there and some messy conditions of Portugal and into Spain.
Yeah, and the Azores.
Oof. And then, okay, this is the one I want to talk about because this just wrapped up. 4 storms at the same time. We had Yingxing, Taraji, Manyi, and Usagi. Fun fact, Usagi means rabbit in Japanese, also the name of Sailor Moon. There you go. And this is where these names come from in East Asia. These storms hit the Philippines, every single one of these tracks, from November 3rd to the 20th, within 2 weeks of each other. All made landfall in relatively the same area here of eastern Luzon. Look at this satellite imagery here, Lee.
Oh my gosh.
1, 2, 3, 4. 2 of these were Cat 5s. Ooh. They were that's incredible. Imagine, Lee, if we take a second to do a hypothetical. Let's say somewhere in Florida. Hope my goodness that this
I don't know what you're saying. I'm not going to avoid
this
it.
never happens. But just put yourself in that mindscape of 4 back-to-back major hurricanes, 4s and 5s. We'll even scrap 3s. We're going 4 and 5s because that's what these were, impacting the state of Florida in a relatively similar area in less than 2 weeks.
Do we have any filmmakers out there? Because that sounds like a horror movie.
It does. That's the day after tomorrow. It's poof.
So and that's a mountainous region. That's why a lot of them are kind of falling apart there. But the mudslides,
yes,
I cannot even imagine.
Well, one of the big issues too with this is that it was heavy rainfall on top of already saturated grounds, on top of more heavy rainfall. So even to today, after all these storms have tapered off, they're still looking at major river flooding, which just because of all the precipitation. Thankfully, unlike the state of Florida, very steep continental shelf there on the East Coast, so storm surge not really a big issue. So that thankfully was not a major issue. It was a lot of the rain and the mountains there, like you said, just ripping it apart.
And I think it also speaks to just how active and crazy it was for us here in the United States, because we weren't really talking about this. That is crazy, but we had our own issues that we were dealing with here back home, Florida, but also, of course, into the Carolinas and Tennessee too, with all of what we've dealt with this year, this season.
Yeah, and it's just... It's one storm. I'm not even done with this list yet.
Okay,
so
sorry.
we got no, you're right. But we got 4 storms there. Then we had Sarah, which we mentioned brought heavy flooding rains across Honduras, Belize, El Salvador, even over towards Guatemala, and also in the parts of Mexico. And then this one is ongoing in the southern Indian Ocean, right around La Union, which is a French island out there. They're being impacted by this here currently, actually, a tropical cyclone there in the South Indian Ocean. So since the 24th of September, we've had an active storm system somewhere across the world. That is just... I'm lost for words here, Lee.
Yeah, really. Well, thank you for putting that graphic together. That was super interesting. And so, please, if you have any questions about the season, our season, or over in the Pacific, send us those questions. I think Robert's going to look through the questions while I'm going to start on this next topic. So it is expected to be a La Nina. We haven't officially become La Nina yet. We haven't had those conditions yet, but we're on a La Nina watch, and we will likely enter La Nina, and the forecast calls for that to last through March. So normally trade winds, which are trade winds that blow from east to west, they push the warm surface waters towards Asia. If we could advance.
Oh, excuse me.
Thank you.
I'm reading
Clicker,
questions.
the magic clicker. He is reading the questions. So in certain years, the trade winds are stronger than usual, and that will cause what we call upwelling, or cooler water rises to the surface, and that's in the Eastern Pacific. Next.
I feel like I'm doing like a PowerPoint slide here.
I know.
Next slide, please.
All right, so I'm going to just talk about this now for a second. So what happens when La Nina is in play for our winter time? I've gotten questions. Lee, are we going to get snow this winter? All right. First and foremost, it is so rare for snow to happen along the first coast anyway. But I would say it's even less likely to happen during a La Nina winter, because La Nina usually means for us warm weather and dry weather. So you can see that it's all across the southeast, warm and dry weather. That is what's normal for La Nina, and that seems to be the forecast too. You know, the Climate Prediction Center puts out these 3-month outlooks, and they are calling for a warm and dry next 3 months for us.
That would be the last time. What was it? Of course, we've gotten snow before, but the last major snowstorm in the first coast was 1989.
Yes, I think it's 89.
And that was less snow and more just ice. It was snow. It was Florida snow.
Yeah, to me, the pictures I've seen sounds amazing, but I know you have been in lake effect snow before, so it's laughable to you.
But that's a different beast. That's a different. And plus, the infrastructure there is there to handle snow. The infrastructure in Florida is, somebody out there with a blowtorch melting the ice off the side. Please don't do that.
No.
Don't. Every year, whenever it freezes, I have to, and if we get a frost, I have to tell people here in Florida, do not spill hot water on your windshield for the love of God.
Okay, I'm a Floridian, but even I know not to do that. Okay?
I'm seeing you. That'll be our next Talking Tropics. It's not really tropics, where we're going to have a conversation about things not to do, like running your sprinklers when it's 20 degrees outside.
Well, I do have to say, Robert, that I have wonderful memories as a kid of my parents waking up early on a freezing morning, spraying the hose down, spraying all the bushes. So we had icicles, tiny little icicles, and then the second grader in me would just run outside and it snowed.
That's Florida snow right there.
Like,
that's your typical Florida snow
action for the kiddos, so they get a little bit of winter weather.
Just a little.
But speaking of our winter weather, we already mentioned warm and dry, and some people might be upset about no Florida snow, but the good news with this is that our severe weather risk is lower during La Nina because the jet stream is to our north. And so on that last image that we showed you, you saw that jet stream that was dipping, but it stays to our north. And you get tornadoes and severe weather with that jet stream. And since it's further to the north during La Nina, we are less likely to have severe weather. Of course, all of this is not to say like it's not going to get cold or we're not going to have severe weather. Of course, it still happens. Just the general pattern: warmer, drier, but a bit calmer with that severe weather threat. And that's nice because usually if we say we entered La Nina earlier this year, you come off an active hurricane season, at least you get lower severe weather in the winter.
And this looking ahead to next season, just merely at the fact that a La Nina is in place, we already have warm sea surface temperatures. I wouldn't be surprised if the last bullet on there is why you'll see when the numbers come out in May for our hurricane season that we do expect an above average hurricane season.
And I will say, I was just reading up on this yesterday, and the meteorologist and the climatologist at the Climate Prediction Center, National Weather Service, they are all saying that they don't expect this La Nina to be as long-lived as past or as strong as in the past, but for now they're at least calling for it through March. And that's, of course, something that Robert and I will keep a close eye on over the coming months, and we'll keep you updated. Because yes, although the tropics season is coming to an end, we're going to continue to do this. We're probably going to revamp the name. It won't be Talkin Tropics anymore, but we still want to continue to do this interaction with you all in these shows. So we will keep you updated on the La Nina season.
There's so much to talk about. For example, one of my favorite, really, it is a meteorological term.
Bomb swirl.
Oh, look at that swirl.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh, no, it's cool. That's what I say when I look at this. I go, woo. What do you prefer, the term bomb cyclone or bombogenesis, Lee?
Bomb cyclone.
Yeah, bombogenesis does sound kind of cool though.
It does.
It's like it's something Sonic the Hedgehog game, like the bombogenesis. Okay, so we say these terms and it sounds scary, it sounds spooky, but there actually is a technical definition behind them. It is a storm system dropping 24 millibars in 24 hours. Often happens in transition seasons with these extratropical storm systems, which we're seeing right now. That crazy looking swirl actually is a storm system impacting the Pacific Northwest, hundreds of thousands of people without power. Blizzard warnings in place. And you might be thinking, it snows out in the Cascades. What do you mean blizzard warnings? And actually, I should note, it's a rare blizzard warning, the second time only, I think, in the state of Washington. I believe the winds have to be continuous for 3 hours. You can tell I haven't been up north in a while. I think 3 hours continuous, 35 miles per hour or higher with visibility less than a half a mile. If I'm wrong, please let me know in the comment section. I'm pretty confident that's close to. The point is, it's not just heavy snow. It has to be the wind. It has to be the reduced visibility. And it has to be the snow to get a true blizzard warning. And they got that going on out there right now. Big old storm, hurricane strength winds, by the way, so that's why this can get included in Talkin Tropics here, Lee. They got hurricane strength winds along the coast at this time, so it's not a good day.
No, not for them.
It's a messy day.
But that's why I picked bomb cyclone as my favorite word, because it includes cyclone, and we're always talking about cyclones.
Yeah, all right.
But yeah, look how messy that looks. You can see the winter weather. And mixing in with that, no, thank you.
That is Sasquatch land right there. No, but for real though, that's like the redwoods and all that up in there. Big old trees and That's the area where Twilight kind of was shot, so we're giving you an idea of where that location is. And on that note,
I do have one question for you.
yeah, let's go.
Okay. I think I'm reading this correctly. MK Hall's on my Facebook page. I think what she's asking is if NOAA keeps up with the ozone levels regularly.
Oh, so are we talking about like the ozone hole? Because I know I've seen an article, and this is just me, I seen it in passing about like several months ago, that the ozone hole in Antarctica is repairing itself, and it's almost completely repaired. After, back in the 70s, the aerosols and everything, there was a big ban on it because it was depleting it. Yeah, I think, but they do.
Because NOAA covers so many different.
Yeah.
So even down to the National Weather Service level with ozone levels locally, when we get these air quality alerts too, and it's because ozone levels can be unhealthy for sensitive groups. And so yes, ozone in all terms, in all sense.
I guess that's
NOAA
probably what
keeps
they're
an
asking.
eye on it. No, I think you were going with the right. Cause they said they asked about. Keeping an eye on global warming effects of our weather,
okay,
and
so
does
the
NOAA?
ozone.
Yes, but
Yeah,
I just thought I'd add in there. Yes, I think all layers of ozone.
The ozone hole is separate from climate change. I do want to stress that. A lot of people are like, what happened to the ozone hole? Which in Antarctica, which is why actually one of the main reasons why we have your tax dollars go to stations in Antarctica, in McMurdo, and specifically the South Pole Station, which I almost worked for, Lee. I was ready to go, and I got offered the job in Rochester that I worked at for a couple of years, and I was like, yeah, maybe staying in the States.
I mean, Rochester's cold, but not
Yeah.
that cold.
But I went through the screening. I got my blood work done and everything on it.
Wow.
I was gonna go to the South Pole Station and work as a forecaster for the missions out there. And one of their main missions is just they have a bunch of tech that points stuff at the sky and measures the ozone layer out there. And I did see some information that it is being repaired. NOAA or the scientist out there with that project continuing to the checkup on it. So yeah, that's a good question.
Since you almost went down there, I have a question of my own. I saw this randomly 2 days ago. I need you to confirm or deny. Is it true that if you're going to go down there, you have to have your appendix removed? Because it's better to not have it rather than it bursting down there and you having no medical attention.
Mine is already out,
Oh,
but
okay.
I think that is a misnomer, but maybe for the winter,
Probably winter months.
because I was going to go down the summer months, but maybe in the winter months. And the main reason is not so much at McMurdo, but definitely South Pole Station. There's like 5 months where you're on the moon. You're hurt? Oh, well, good luck with that.
Ooh.
I mean, they have doctors and everything there, and they have people that can kind of take care of it. It was actually a famous story. I think it was in the 80s. The one doctor at South Pole Station had to remove something. I think she had cancer or something like that. But she had to do surgery on herself. So I've heard that before. I'm not quite sure how.
Sorry for taking you off topic.
No,
I
I've heard that
literally saw
before.
that.
I'm not quite sure how true it is, but I can tell you the truth behind the fact that if you go there, like I said, I had to do blood work and everything like that when I wanted to go, and is because they had to do blood work. I had to get a physical, and I had to go through, basically they had to prep you like if you were going to the moon. They didn't want to send you all the way out there and then you were like, you got sick, and then it's like, well, now you're a liability versus an asset on the other side of the world. Thankfully, this all took place right after I got out of the Navy, so I was in like peak shape, at that time. So I was able to get the job. I think nowadays they'd be like, all right.
No. Well, I think that's the only question I saw on my end. Do you have any questions on your page?
I see one about La Niña.
Okay, cool.
I have one. Somebody's asking about cloud holes or cloud punches, but they have a picture. I'll
Cool.
save that for our next Talkin Tropics because I get
Love
this
that.
question asked a lot. Lee knows what I'm talking about. So that's a little teaser for maybe
Cool.
next week's talking tropics weather, whatever you call it after the end of hurricane season.
Yeah, well, that's why, this is my last official Talkin Tropics because I am not here next week.
Oh.
So I just want to thank everyone for being with us this season. We hope you've loved it as much as we have loved interacting with you all. And we do want to continue this past hurricane season into just a regular weekly weather show. So if you like it, please let us know. We want to keep doing this.
You know what?
We'll do it with your support.
Don't just let us know. Do us a favor and write First Coast News. Let them know that you want to see more of these updates. And also do me another huge favor. Download that First Coast News app if you're not already watching it. Don't forget, you don't only just have to stream our shows, but you can stream all sorts of news there, our regular newscasts. One of the big things I get from people is, I don't watch the news anymore. I don't have a TV. You can watch it on your phone. This is where you can be. If you're already watching it here, you can already watch it on the First Coast News app. So make sure you watch us
Absolutely.
on FCN Plus.
The app, the First Coast News Plus app, not only on your phone, but also for Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV too. It's my favorite Roku app that I have, where we just have stuff streaming all the time. So if you miss it live with us, it does re-air. We have our schedule up. We talk about it in the newscast too. So please download that app and stick with us here. Who knows what it will be in 2 weeks, not Talkin Tropics. I think we know what the name's going to be, but we will not launch it yet. We'll let you know soon though. So please stay tuned with us.
All right. Have a great day out there.